We often search for life-changing answers in complex books, grand philosophies, or distant ideals, forgetting that sometimes the most powerful shifts come from the simplest insights. A single principle, rightly understood and consistently practiced, can change not just a moment, but the entire trajectory of your life. And few traditions have distilled such timeless principles more clearly than Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, these thinkers were not theorists isolated in ivory towers. They were men tested by hardship, by power, by loss, and yet through all of it, they left behind not abstract musings, but living wisdom. Simple truths meant to be practiced, not just admired. Truths that, when lived, forge clarity, strength, and freedom from within. Today, much of our suffering comes from forgetting this simplicity. We chase the approval of others, hoping it will fill the void. We fear discomfort, building lives around its avoidance. We treat time as infinite, wasting days on what does not matter. We allow old wounds to rule us, unexamined and unresolved. And yet, with each small compromise, we drift further from the life we could live, a life of inner peace, of resilience, of authenticity. But the Stoic path offers a way back. It is not a promise of an easy life. It is a call to a stronger one. A life where you no longer seek to control what lies beyond your grasp, but instead master the one thing always within your command, yourself. A life where you meet each moment with presence, with purpose, with the courage to face what is difficult rather than running from it. A life where time is honored, not squandered. Where joy is cultivated through virtue, not indulgence. And the beauty of this path is that it is built not on grand transformations, but on small daily choices, practices so simple they can be overlooked, yet so profound they can change everything. The Stoics did not offer hacks or shortcuts. They offered discipline, reflection, self-respect, and these remain as relevant today as they were 2,000 years ago. So as we walk through these 10 timeless Stoic tips, do not listen passively. Listen as an invitation, for each one is a seed. And if you choose to plant even one of them deeply into the soil of your daily life, you may find, perhaps sooner than you think, that your life begins to change from the inside out. Not all at once, but choice by choice, moment by moment, thought by thought. Because sometimes it is not more knowledge we need, but more courage to live what we already know. 1. Don't seek to control others. Master yourself instead. How much of your daily energy is spent trying to manage what lies beyond your control, trying to change another person's opinion, to fix their mood, to gain their approval, to reshape their choices? It is an exhausting pursuit, and the Stoic sees it for what it is, a trap. For the truth is simple, if uncomfortable. You cannot control others. You cannot dictate their reactions, their values, their path. And the more you try, the more peace you sacrifice. Epictetus put it bluntly, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom begins not when you succeed in bending the world to your will, but when you cease the futile attempt to do so. When you shift your gaze inward and devote yourself to the one domain that is always within reach, your own mind, your own choices, your own character. Yet most people spend their lives outwardly directed. They argue endlessly, trying to win approval. They ruminate on slights, trying to rewrite what has already passed. They twist themselves into knots, trying to fix those around them. And in doing so, they become prisoners, not of others, but of their own misplaced focus. The Stoic path is the opposite. It begins with surrender, not to weakness, but to truth. You accept, I do not control their thoughts. I do not control their behavior. I do not control their opinions of me. What I do control is how I respond, how I think, how I live. This is where your true power lies. And once this shift is made, life begins to change. The need for constant validation fades. The emotional turbulence caused by others' moods diminishes. Relationships become lighter, freer, rooted not in control, but in mutual respect. You stop trying to force outcomes and start living in alignment with your own values. Mastering yourself is no small task. It requires daily discipline. It means observing your thoughts rather than being ruled by them. It means learning to pause before reacting. It means cultivating emotional resilience so that your inner state is not at the mercy of external chaos. But in this mastery lies peace, the kind of peace that cannot be given or taken by others. A peace that arises from knowing, I govern my mind, I choose my path. I am free because I have stopped trying to control what I was never meant to control. So the next time you feel the pull to argue, to correct, to fix, to chase approval, pause. Ask yourself, am I focusing outward where I have no power, or inward where true freedom is found? The Stoic chooses the latter. And in doing so, he reclaims his energy, his clarity, his life. Because when you master yourself, the world no longer masters you. 2. Treat every moment as if it were your last, because it might be. There is a reason the Stoics held memento mori, remember you must die, as a central meditation. It was not meant to breed fear, nor to darken life with morbidity. Quite the opposite. It was meant to wake you up, to strip away the illusion of endless time, to bring sharp clarity to what matters and what does not. For when you truly grasp that any moment could be your last, a subtle but profound shift takes place. You begin to live. Marcus Aurelius wrote with this awareness ever present, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. These were not empty words for him. He was Emperor of Rome, shouldering immense responsibility, surrounded by turmoil. Yet in his meditations, we hear a man determined to meet each day, not sleepwalking through routine, but with presence, with integrity, with urgency. And how different this is from how most of us live. We procrastinate because we think there will be more time. We withhold kind words, waiting for a better moment. We stay in relationships that drain us, clinging to the false comfort of tomorrow. We neglect our dreams, assuming the future is guaranteed. But the future is a story we tell ourselves, a story that life may not honor. This is not cause for despair. It is cause for deeper living. For when you truly hold mortality in your awareness, each moment sharpens. This conversation with a loved one matters. This sunrise matters. This small act of courage matters. You no longer squander your time on trivial arguments or hollow pursuits. You stop numbing yourself with endless distraction. You wake up to life, not someday, but now. And this presence transforms how you face difficulty. The Stoic who remembers death no longer fears discomfort. He knows life is fleeting. Why waste precious time avoiding what must be faced? He acts with integrity, knowing he may not get another chance to do so. He forgives more quickly, seeing how foolish it is to carry bitterness into an uncertain tomorrow. It also transforms relationships. You become more present with those you love, more patient, more willing to speak the truths that matter. Petty conflicts dissolve when seen through the lens of impermanence. You begin to value depth over surface, sincerity over performance. In practical terms, this means starting each day with reflection. If today were my last, how would I live it? What would I prioritize? What would I release? It means catching yourself when you slip into autopilot, when you numb, when you defer what matters. It means embodying your values here and now, not in some imagined future. Because the Stoic knows, life does not owe you another moment. Each breath is a gift. Each choice is a chance to align with virtue. And to live as if this moment were your last is not to live in fear, but in freedom, in presence, in truth. So ask yourself today, if I truly held mortality in mind, how would I meet this moment? And then live it, not tomorrow. Now, 3. Pain is not the enemy. Your judgment of it is. We are conditioned to see pain as the enemy, something to be feared, avoided, suppressed at all costs. We chase comfort. We numb ourselves with distraction. We seek immediate relief when discomfort arises. But the Stoic sees through this reflex. Pain is not the enemy. Our judgment of it is. It is not the sensation itself that destroys our peace, but the story we tell ourselves about it. And it is here, in this space between experience and interpretation, that the Stoic cultivates freedom. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." He saw clearly what modern psychology now confirms. Pain becomes suffering when magnified by resistance, fear, and negative interpretation. The physical sensation or emotional sting may be real, but it is the mind that adds layers of, "This shouldn't be happening. I can't bear this. This will ruin me." In doing so, we trap ourselves in cycles of anguish far worse than the original discomfort. The Stoic chooses another path. He trains himself to meet pain, not with panic, but with presence. He observes it with curiosity. What is this sensation teaching me? What virtue does this moment call for? Patience, courage, endurance? In this framing, pain transforms from tormentor to teacher. This shift begins with reframing discomfort itself. The modern world promotes the pursuit of constant ease, but the Stoic understands that a life without challenge weakens the soul. Pain, whether physical, emotional, or circumstantial, is the forge of resilience. It is the testing ground of character. To meet it willingly is to grow stronger. To flee from it is to become fragile. And so the Stoic practices voluntary hardship, not to punish himself, but to cultivate readiness. Cold showers, fasting, physical exertion, intellectual challenge, all are embraced as opportunities to train the mind, to remain steady in the face of discomfort. For if you can meet chosen difficulty with grace, you are better prepared to meet life's inevitable, unchosen trials. Moreover, the Stoic views emotional pain through the same lens. Grief, anger, disappointment, these are part of life. To deny them is folly, but to become enslaved by them is equally misguided. The wise person allows these emotions to arise, to be felt, to be processed, but does not allow them to define or derail him. He understands. This too is temporary. This too is an opportunity for growth. In daily life, this practice looks like pausing when discomfort arises. Instead of reacting impulsively, the Stoic breathes, observes, questions. What am I adding to this pain with my judgment? What story am I telling? Can I meet this moment with greater equanimity? Over time, this discipline builds a remarkable inner strength, a mind less reactive, more grounded, more free. And in this freedom lies peace. For once you no longer fear pain, you are no longer its prisoner. You move through life with a quiet resilience, knowing that whatever arises, you have the capacity to face it. Pain loses its power not because it disappears, but because your relationship to it has transformed. So ask yourself today, am I meeting discomfort with resistance or with wisdom? Am I allowing pain to define me or to refine me? For the Stoic knows, pain is inevitable, but suffering is often a choice. And through this understanding, he walks the path of true resilience. 4. You become what you consistently tolerate. One of the most profound yet easily overlooked truths of the Stoic path is this: you are not shaped by your intentions, your words, or even your ideals. You are shaped by your habits, by what you consistently tolerate in yourself, in your environment, in your relationships. Every choice you make, every boundary you allow to be crossed, every excuse you accept is a silent vote for the person you are becoming. And the Stoic, above all, lives with an acute awareness of this reality. Seneca warned us, every sin is the result of a collaboration between error and habit. The danger is rarely in one dramatic fall, but in a slow erosion of standards. You skip one discipline, excuse one indulgence, let one instance of disrespect slide. And if left unchecked, this becomes your new baseline. What was once unacceptable becomes normal, and slowly, imperceptibly, your life tilts away from virtue. The Stoic understands that the soul is shaped by repetition, not by what you occasionally do when motivated, but by what you consistently practice, especially when no one is watching. You tolerate laziness once, and it becomes easier the next time. You tolerate gossip in your circle, and it quietly poisons your thinking. You tolerate mediocrity in your work, and your standards slip. Every moment of tolerance is a moment of shaping. This is why the Stoic practices constant vigilance, not harsh self-condemnation, but honest self-observation. He asks daily, what am I rehearsing today? What patterns am I reinforcing? Are my actions aligned with the person I seek to become, or am I unconsciously becoming someone else? This is not obsession, it is clarity. It is the understanding that each choice builds momentum in one direction or another. This principle applies equally to how you allow others to treat you. If you consistently tolerate disrespect, you teach others how to engage with you, and worse, you teach yourself that you are willing to accept less than you deserve. If you tolerate shallow friendships, toxic workplaces, relationships devoid of integrity, you normalize them, and in doing so, you sacrifice your own inner peace and self-respect. The Stoic does not expect perfection, but he does demand alignment. When he notices a gap between his ideals and his actions, he does not rationalize, it is corrected, not with harshness, but with resolve. Because he knows that over time, small tolerances become large deviations, and the cost is too great. In practical terms, this means setting clear standards for yourself. How do I speak? How do I work? How do I treat others? How do I allow myself to be treated? It means practicing the discipline to correct when you slip, to say no when a line is crossed, to hold fast to what matters even when comfort tempts you otherwise. Because ultimately, your life is not built in grand gestures. It is built in these small daily tolerances, and the Stoic lives with the constant awareness that what you permit is what you promote, not only in the world, but in yourself. So ask yourself today, what am I tolerating that weakens me? What small allowances are shaping me in ways I do not desire? And what will I choose instead? For in answering with courage, you reclaim authorship over the person you are becoming. 5. External validation is a prison disguised as praise. Few forces shape human behavior more subtly and more destructively than the craving for approval. We seek it almost instinctively. A compliment from a friend, applause from an audience, likes and followers on a screen. Each moment of validation feeds the ego, creating a fleeting sense of worth. But the Stoic sees through this. He knows that external validation is a prison disguised as praise. For when your worth depends on the approval of others, you surrender the freedom of your mind. Epictetus warned us, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Why? Because true growth often conflicts with popular opinion. To live in alignment with virtue, to walk your own path with integrity, will sometimes invite misunderstanding, criticism, even rejection. If your happiness depends on constant validation, you will be incapable of pursuing what is right. You will forever chase what is popular. And this is the tragedy of dependence on praise. It feels like power, but it is slavery. The applause of others lifts you today, but what happens when it fades? One day they celebrate you, the next they forget you or turn against you. And if your identity is built on their reactions, you will live in constant anxiety, forever adapting to please an audience that is fickle and ungovernable. The Stoic chooses another way. He grounds his self-respect not in what others think, but in how he lives. His standard is not popularity, but virtue. He asks himself, am I acting with wisdom, with courage, with justice, with temperance? If the answer is yes, then external opinions, whether praise or blame, are irrelevant. They are noise, not signal. This does not mean the Stoic becomes cold or indifferent to human connection. He values honest relationships. He welcomes sincere feedback. But he distinguishes between what is useful for growth and what is mere ego bait. He does not perform for approval. He lives in alignment with principle. In practice, this means noticing the pull of validation. When you post online, when you speak in public, when you share your work, are you seeking approval or expressing truth? When you receive praise, can you enjoy it without becoming attached to it? And when you face criticism, can you examine it rationally without collapsing into self-doubt? The Stoic cultivates this inner freedom through reflection and discipline. He reminds himself daily, my worth is not determined by the crowd. It is determined by the consistency of my character. He practices being content with doing what is right, even if no one notices. And over time, this becomes his natural state. Not arrogance, but quiet self-possession. This freedom is priceless. When you no longer depend on external validation, you become unshakable. You can pursue meaningful work, even if it is misunderstood. You can speak uncomfortable truths when needed. You can face rejection without losing your peace. You reclaim authorship of your life. So today, ask yourself, where am I still chained to the need for approval? What choices am I making to please others rather than to honor my own values? And then, step by step, practice letting go. For as Epictetus taught, to be content to be thought foolish is not weakness, it is strength. It is the mark of one who has chosen freedom over popularity. And in that freedom, you will find a deeper, more lasting peace than applause could ever offer. 6. Expect insults and prepare your dignity in advance. One of the great illusions that feeds unnecessary suffering is the belief that if you live virtuously, treat others with respect, and strive for inner excellence, the world will respond in kind. It would be comforting if this were true. But the Stoic faces life as it is, not as he wishes it to be. And the truth is simple. You will be insulted. You will be misunderstood. You will be provoked, dismissed, or mocked. Sometimes by strangers, sometimes by those closest to you. The wise do not waste energy wishing this were not so. They expect it. And more importantly, they prepare their dignity in advance. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." The insult itself is nothing but air, words, glances, gestures. It is only your reaction, your internal judgment of the insult that gives it power over you. If you allow yourself to be provoked, if you stoop to retaliate, if you internalize the attack, you have surrendered your peace to another's pettiness. The Stoic chooses a higher path. He prepares mentally, knowing that insults will come. He rehearses his response, not in outward cleverness, but in inward composure. He visualizes himself standing like a mountain in a storm, unshaken, unmoved. The winds howl, but the mountain does not bend. In this image lies a profound discipline, not the suppression of emotion, but the mastery of it. And why is this so important? Because dignity is not reactive. It is not something you scramble to reclaim after it has been damaged. It is something you cultivate in advance, through daily choices, through inner reflection, through unwavering alignment with your values. When insults arise, your response should not be a frantic effort to stay composed. It should be the natural outflow of who you have already chosen to become. The Stoic also reflects on the source of the insult. Is the one provoking you acting from wisdom, from virtue? If not, why grant their words the power to disturb your inner state? Would you argue with a child throwing a tantrum or a sick person lashing out? The wise person sees insults in this light, not as reflections of truth, but as the noise of ungoverned minds. He meets them with compassion if possible, with indifference if necessary, but never with surrender. Moreover, he recognizes that the true test of dignity is not how you behave when admired, but how you respond when attacked. It is easy to seem virtuous when surrounded by praise. It is in the face of insult that your real strength is revealed. To endure provocation without bitterness, to maintain clarity without stooping to pettiness, this is mastery. In practical terms, this means practicing the pause. When insult arises, breathe. Observe the impulse to react and choose differently. Return to the question, who do I wish to be in this moment? Will responding in kind serve my integrity? Almost always, the answer is no. And each time you choose dignity over reaction, you strengthen the habit. Insults begin to lose their sting, not because they no longer occur, but because they no longer penetrate. You walk through life with a lighter heart, a clearer mind, a deeper peace. So prepare now. Do not wait for the insult to decide who you will be. Choose today to be like the mountain, rooted, resilient, unmoved by the storms of others' opinions. For in doing so, you claim a power that no one, not even your harshest critic, can take from you. 7. Don't wish for easy days. Wish for inner strength. It is natural to hope for ease. When faced with challenges, uncertainties, or exhaustion, the human mind instinctively yearns for smoother paths, calmer seas, a world free from friction. But the Stoic teaches a higher wisdom. Do not wish for life to be easier, wish to be stronger. For the quality of your life is not determined by how often fortune favors you, but by how deeply you have forged the strength to meet whatever life brings. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. These are not poetic words. They are a call to transformation. Life will bring storms. There will be days of failure, grief, betrayal, and uncertainty. No philosophy can shield you from this truth. But the Stoic embraces this reality because he understands that it is precisely through facing difficulty that character is forged. To constantly wish for easy days is paradoxically to weaken yourself. When ease becomes the goal, resilience erodes. You grow soft, reactive, unable to endure adversity. The moment life fails to cooperate, you collapse into complaint or avoidance. The Stoic refuses this path. He welcomes hardship as training, not because he is masochistic, but because he knows that inner strength is built in the crucible of challenge. This mindset is transformative. When adversity strikes, the untrained mind asks, "Why is this happening to me?" The Stoic asks instead, "What is this here to teach me? What virtue does this moment call for? Courage, patience, wisdom, discipline?" In reframing difficulty as opportunity, he transcends victimhood and steps into agency. Moreover, the Stoic prepares for hardship in advance. He does not wait for storms to build resilience. He trains daily. Voluntary discomfort, disciplined routines, mental rehearsal of adversity. These practices cultivate a mind and body ready to face life with equanimity. Cold showers, fasting, long periods of silence, hard physical training. These are not trends for him, but tools for fortification. And when real adversity comes, a loss, a failure, a betrayal, the training shows. Where others flail, the Stoic stands firm, not because he feels no pain, but because he has learned to carry it with grace. Where others wish for rescue, he calls forth inner strength. This is the fruit of a life aimed not at comfort, but at capacity. Importantly, this strength is not cold or distant. It is grounded in purpose. The Stoic builds strength not to dominate, but to serve, to be a pillar for others, a source of wisdom and calm in a chaotic world. His resilience is not self-serving. It is a gift he offers through presence, action, and example. So do not waste energy longing for an easier life. Life will be what it will be, often harder than you wish, often more complex than you can predict. Instead, devote yourself to becoming the person who can meet it all, with courage, clarity, and integrity. Ask yourself daily, am I wishing for ease or building strength? Am I avoiding challenge or embracing it as my training ground? For the Stoic knows, life is not meant to be easy. It is meant to call forth your highest self, and every obstacle is an invitation to become more. 8. The mind is like clay. Shape it, or it shapes you. Your mind is not fixed. It is malleable, like clay. Every thought, every habit, every experience presses upon it, leaving its imprint. And over time, these imprints become your patterns, your default ways of thinking, reacting, perceiving the world. The great danger is that most people move through life unconsciously shaped by these forces, without realizing that they themselves can choose to shape the mind deliberately. The Stoic understands this. If you do not shape your mind, the world will do it for you, and often poorly. Seneca wrote, "A wise man is content with himself." But that contentment is not natural, it is cultivated. It is the result of conscious shaping. Without this effort, the mind becomes a passive vessel, filled with the noise of the day, the opinions of others, the residue of past wounds, the seductions of modern distraction. Consider how many thoughts cross your mind each day, most unchosen, most unnoticed. Fearful projections, harsh self-criticism, envy, resentment, shallow comparisons. If these are left unchallenged, they harden into the clay of your identity. You begin to see the world through these distortions, and in doing so, you reinforce them further. The Stoic refuses to live passively shaped. He chooses to become the sculptor of his own mind. He observes his thoughts with detachment. Is this true? Is this useful? Does this align with virtue? He does not believe every fear, every impulse, every passing judgment. He questions, reframes, and replaces what does not serve wisdom. This discipline extends to all areas of life. The Stoic curates his environment, knowing that what surrounds him will influence what is within him. He selects what he reads, what he watches, who he associates with, because these too shape the clay of the mind. He understands that discipline in input leads to clarity in output. Moreover, the Stoic practices deliberate mental training, daily reflection, journaling, meditation. These are not luxuries, but necessities. They are the tools by which the mind is shaped toward calm, courage, and clarity. Just as an athlete trains the body, the Stoic trains the mind. He knows that an untrained mind is weak, reactive, fragile, easily led astray. A trained mind is resilient, able to hold steady in adversity, able to discern truth from illusion, able to choose response over reaction. And the beauty of this practice is that it is never too late to begin. No matter how deeply old patterns are etched, the mind remains malleable. Each conscious choice reshapes it. Each moment of reflection, each disciplined act of thought leaves a new imprint. Over time, these small efforts compound, and the very nature of your mind transforms. So the Stoic asks daily, am I shaping my mind today, or is it being shaped for me? Are my thoughts aligned with reason and virtue, or are they drifting unexamined? In this question lies power. For to shape your mind consciously is to reclaim authorship over your life. And in this deliberate shaping, the Stoic finds the freedom that so many seek in vain, the freedom to think clearly, to act wisely, to live with deep inner contentment, because the mind, like clay, has been shaped into a vessel of virtue. 9. What you run from runs your life. There is a simple yet profound truth in human psychology. Whatever you avoid controls you. The more you run from a fear, an old wound, an uncomfortable truth, the more power it gains in the shadows of your mind. The Stoics saw this clearly. They taught that the path to freedom is not in escape, but in confrontation. You cannot outrun what haunts you, you must turn toward it. For as long as you flee, it shapes your choices, limits your growth, and colors your life from behind the scenes. Epictetus warned us, it is not external events themselves that cause us distress, but the judgments we make about them. And so often, it is the avoidance of these judgments that traps us. The person who avoids silence often fears what will arise when there is nothing to distract them. The person who drowns in work or entertainment may be running from unresolved grief, from shame, from emptiness. The more they avoid it, the more it dictates their life. Driving compulsions, shaping relationships, warping self-perception. The Stoic refuses this trap. He turns inward, not to escape, but to confront. He practices regular self-examination. What am I avoiding? What fear? What guilt? What unresolved emotion am I unwilling to face? This is not easy work. It requires courage, the courage to sit in silence and let what arises arise. The courage to look old pain in the eye and say, "You no longer control me." And through this confrontation, something remarkable happens. The thing feared begins to lose its grip. When brought into the light of awareness, its size is revealed, often far smaller than imagined. The mind, no longer expending energy to suppress or flee, regains clarity and peace. What once dictated life from the shadows becomes integrated, understood, released. This practice applies to all domains. Emotionally, it means facing grief, anger, fear, processing them fully rather than bypassing them with false stoicism. Intellectually, it means questioning your own beliefs, especially the ones you cling to most fiercely. Physically, it may mean addressing long-avoided health issues. In relationships, it often means having the hard conversations you've postponed. And most of all, it means facing mortality, the ultimate thing most people run from. The Stoic embraces memento mori not as morbid fixation, but as liberation. By facing the reality of death, he frees himself to live fully. For what you run from runs you, but what you face, you reclaim. In daily life, this practice begins with awareness. Notice your patterns of avoidance. Where do you distract yourself? Where do you numb? What do you refuse to speak of, even to yourself? These are the doorways to freedom. The Stoic steps through them, not recklessly but deliberately, with the tools of reflection, reason, and community when needed. And with each confrontation, the inner world becomes lighter. Energy once bound in suppression is freed. Choices once dictated by hidden fear become open. The Stoic does not seek to banish all pain. That is impossible. But he seeks to ensure that no part of his life is ruled by what he will not face. So ask yourself today, what am I running from? And what might become possible if I chose with courage to face it instead? For in that choice lies the path to freedom. 10. Your time is borrowed. Use it like it matters. There is perhaps no more humbling and clarifying truth than this. Your time is not your own. It is borrowed, fleeting, and unrecoverable. Each day, each hour, each moment passes, never to return. Yet most people live as if life is an unlimited resource, as if they can always do tomorrow what they avoid today. The Stoic rejects this illusion. He knows that time is life, and to squander time is to squander life itself. Seneca wrote passionately about this in On the Shortness of Life. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. And what is the most common form of this waste? Distraction. We check our phones endlessly. We fill hours with trivial entertainment. We engage in conversations that drain rather than uplift. We postpone what truly matters, the hard work, the deep relationships, the courageous acts, because we believe we will have more time. But the Stoic sees through this. He remembers daily, memento mori, you could die tomorrow, you could die today. This is not cause for despair, but for awakening. For when you hold this truth close, it burns away the trivial and reveals what matters. In practical terms, this means living with intention. When you sit down to work, work fully. Do not fritter the hours with half-hearted effort and digital distraction. When you are with loved ones, be present. Do not let the precious moments dissolve in absent-minded scrolling. When you know there is a conversation you must have, a truth you must speak, a dream you must pursue, act. Do not postpone. Every day gone is a day never to be regained. The phone checks, the comfort-seeking procrastination, the avoidance of hard but meaningful work, these are not harmless habits. They are how life is lost. Slowly, quietly, day by day. The Stoic therefore practices radical ownership of time. He reflects in the morning, how will I use this day? what truly matters, and he reflects in the evening. How did I spend this day? What would I do differently tomorrow? This is not about rigid scheduling or joyless optimization. It is about reverence, about treating time as the sacred finite gift that it is. And this reverence transforms life. It sharpens your focus. It deepens your presence. It strengthens your resolve. You begin to feel the urgency, not of panic, but of purpose. You speak the words that matter. You do the hard things now. You step fully into who you were meant to be, not someday, but today. For in truth, someday is an illusion. The clock is always ticking, and the person who remembers this lives with an aliveness, a depth, a courage that those lost in endless tomorrows will never know. So ask yourself right now, if I truly remembered that my time is borrowed, how would I live this day? What would I stop postponing? What would I begin? And then act. Live now. Speak truth. Do the hard thing. Be who you are meant to be. Because the Stoic knows you do not own your time. You are entrusted with it, and the wise honor that trust with how they live each moment. In the end, the Stoic path is not about grand gestures or impossible ideals. It is about how you choose to live, moment by moment, thought by thought, day by day. It is about remembering that your life is shaped not by the circumstances around you, but by the clarity, courage, and discipline within you. And these, like any strength, are forged through daily practice. You will not always master yourself perfectly. You will forget. You will react. You will drift at times. But the Stoic understands that the point is not perfection. It is progress. It is returning again and again to the simple truths that anchor the soul. To live aligned with what you can control. To face each moment as if it were your last. To meet pain with wisdom, not resistance, to tolerate only what strengthens you, to free yourself from the prison of external validation, to hold dignity above reaction, to build inner strength rather than wish for ease, to shape your mind consciously, to confront what you have long avoided, and above all, to honor time as the sacred, fleeting gift that it is. When you begin to live in this way, not in theory, but in practice, you will find that your life changes, not in some sudden, dramatic way, but in a deep, steady transformation. You become calmer, clearer, stronger, more present, less ruled by fear, by impulse, by the judgments of others. You begin to walk your path with a quiet confidence, not because life is easier, but because you are. And this is the invitation of Stoicism, not to escape life, but to meet it fully, to become the kind of person who, when faced with anything, success or failure, joy or sorrow, praise or insult, remains anchored in what matters, who lives not for appearance but for virtue, who wastes no more time waiting, but lives now. So as you move forward from this reflection, carry these 10 truths with you, not as distant ideals, but as companions on your path. Choose one, live it today, then another, and another. For the Stoic knows, small, consistent action shapes the soul. And through this practice, your life will change, not by chance, but by choice. Because in the end, it is not more time we need, but more courage to live the time we have.